Service work order training webinar today. We'll be discussing creating tickets within Driven and managing them, also updating and adding time and parts to tickets, scheduling appointments associated with tickets, closing them, and creating knowledge-based articles in this webinar today. So you should have already attended one of our introductory webinars, which will give you some basic understandings of the concepts within Driven as far as creating and managing workspaces, as well as the difference between a lead and a qualified CRM contact within the database, because that is a very important distinction to Driven, and we do not allow opening of work orders to people who are still in the sales leads area of the software. So that individual must have been promoted at least into the CRM qualified area. So that would be probably the first starting point of opening a work order within Driven, and that is to look up or find the individual first. You can do that through one of your workspace searches here. I can search for Disney World or Mickey Mouse or someone, or in the account search area in the upper right-hand corner here. That's what I'm going to use today, because let's say I do not know what company Mickey Mouse works for, or where he is, or what kind of individual he is. So I can begin typing in a portion of his first name, his last name, or his company name, and that will search for him. It shows to me that he is a prospect and he's with Disney World. So I can click on his name right here. That opens up and accesses all of his current account information. And I can see, okay, where Mickey Mouse is located. He's in Riverview, Florida on Sunny Oak Drive. There are 2 contacts at that company, the owner and the bookkeeper. And I'm also able to see that there's a special alert on his account that says he's a new account and he has no credit. So I can have all of that information at my fingertips. Down at the bottom of the screen here, I'm going to be able to see currently that he has 4 open items in Driven at the moment. And those are 3 open issues or work orders and 1 sales pipeline entry. Also, further down the screen here, I would be able to see that there have been appointments scheduled with Mickey Mouse in the past. So there was a repair of equipment on site on 7/15 at 1 p.m. for both Jen Sherwood and my system administrator. And that was associated to work order number 10011. So all of that information is available to you here when talking to that customer, so that you could identify if he's calling in about an existing issue or asking to create a new ticket or new issue for you. In our case, we're going to go ahead and say that this is a situation where this is going to be a new ticket or work order within Driven. So we'll choose this new work order from the activity menu over in the bottom left-hand corner of our Driven screen. And that will prompt us to begin the work order process. Work orders, like quotes and sales orders in Driven, have to be associated to an individual contact. So I need to pick which person at that company is opening this ticket. In this case, we'll define that as Mickey Mouse. I then choose whether or not a service contract is going to apply to this ticket, because service contracts within Driven have the capability to be able to decrement time and give customers credit, allow certain kinds of rules to be applied to a support ticket. Okay? And if there is a contract associated to this customer's account, it would be an option here to select. If there are no contracts associated to this customer's account, then the service contract area will automatically say non/billable as an option that's chosen. If I choose that, which is what I'm going to do today, then I say that whatever happens on here, whatever time I enter and parts I enter, are going to be invoiced directly to the client. We choose a status for this ticket. This is customizable by you guys and gives you the capability to organize and group what is going on with your particular service tickets. If it's a brand new ticket, or it needs scheduling, or it's a work in progress, those kinds of things might be different statuses that you would want to potentially update on this particular ticket. It is an optional field, though, so I will go ahead and skip it this afternoon. The priority that can be established here is how critical is this ticket. It defaults to a normal or middle priority. However, you can progress this up to a critical issue, urgent, normal, low, or question only. We're going to go ahead and mark this as critical, let's say. The source is how did this particular work order or ticket come in? Did it come in through a phone call, via an email, via sale, an on-site visit, those kinds of things? What caused this ticket to get open? What action would be available to you there? And a reason code as well. A reason code we typically identify as what kind of ticket is this? Would it be a hardware issue, a question only, a support or training issue? Because you might organize those differently and assign them to different kinds of technicians and report on. I want to see how many hardware issues we resolved last week. Those kinds of things would be common reason codes that you might identify within Driven here. Again, as with a lot of the other drop-down boxes within Driven, as long as I have the proper role identified, I can customize what appears in those drop-down box choices by using that Modify List option. But I'm going to go ahead and leave this here. I'll pick this as just a general issue. If your customers issue you a reference number with regard to opening this ticket, they have to give you an approval or a name or something that references this ticket for them. You can enter that information here, optional field again, that I'll skip for now. The received date and time got populated with today's current date and time as soon as I clicked on that Create New button. However, if this came in yesterday, last week, whatever, that date can be modified. And there is also a due by date available to you. If you make a selection here, this means that this ticket should be resolved by that particular date and time. And then you can report on, show me all of my past due work orders that are still open. So it would allow you to report on, potentially escalate issues. Maybe I promised this customer that it will be resolved by Monday, end of day. Then I fill in my details of the ticket here. So I have a summary of the problem that they're having. Server crashed. That's my subject or title for the work order here. Then I can put in the details down here. Blue screen and will not boot up now. They are down. So obviously that's why this is a critical issue, because their whole system is down, server crashed. And I have the capability right here from this main screen to go ahead and attach files to this ticket. If they sent me a copy of an error message or a picture of the server, something like that, I can attach those right here directly into the ticket. And then I want to talk about these detail area over here on the right-hand side. Okay, the assignment details is the first menu choice that's chosen, and that gives me the capability to assign this ticket to one of my employees within my company. So I might directly assign this to Jen right away because I know she's going to work on it. I don't want to do that yet. I want to leave it as an unassigned ticket so you guys can see where that type of information shows up and how you update it from there. Also, you have the capability to assign what Driven calls a backup resource on this ticket. So this would be a secondary individual in your company who could also be in charge of or monitor or work on this particular issue in case Jen is not available. Again, I'll leave that unassigned as well. Now, when we come back and assign this, we'll talk about sending assignment notifications to those people to allow your techs to know that a ticket's been assigned to them and they have something they need to work on. Okay, but we'll do all that when we come back and modify the ticket. During the initial creation process, we'll go ahead and leave that blank. The address details fills in automatically with the ship to address for that customer account. Okay, again, this can be modified right away if I know for a fact, hey, this server is at a different site, or this one time I need to go out to a different location to service a product. Keep in mind, if you update the address here, it does not permanently update the address on the account, only for this one particular instance. Our related products tab that's next to that is showing me current serialized pieces of equipment that Mickey Mouse owns. So right now I can see that Mickey Mouse owns an interface kit The serial number is 46781 on that particular piece of equipment. He also owns a 3-button mouse that's serial number Y89689756. Okay. I can associate one or both of these products to this ticket by linking it here. So right now, my interface kit is currently linked to this issue. That's what's broken, or that's what I want the tech to be able to see the details on. So we filled in all of our basic information about this particular ticket that the customer is calling in about. I'm going to go ahead and save my changes. That gets that ticket created, gives me a ticket number, which I can pass on to the customer. Okay, Mickey, your ticket number is 100,017. Somebody will be contacting you as soon as we're available to come out there and work on it. And the ticket is now created. So if I am simply an incoming call taker type of a person in a situation where all I do is I take the information down and I dispatch it off and somebody else resolves the issue, I would close out of the screen here. I get back to my main Disney World account. I can close him out as well. And now I'm back to Driven. And I would move on. Your technical people, your people working on service issues, would come to their work order workspace if they've defined one and see a component type is all open work orders that are unassigned. We'll change the visible columns on this workspace for just a moment, show the customer name and the summary of the issue, and maybe when it's due by. Oh, and let's put the reason code on there too. That might help. So we can troubleshoot and organize things there. So we'll put the reason code on there as well. Now, when I've saved that particular workspace, I can come in here and see that, okay, the Disney World servers crashed. It's a general issue. It's supposed to be resolved by the 25th. Maybe I need to update that and work on it. So as a technician taking care of tickets, I would open up this particular ticket here and be able to update it and begin documenting activities. Okay. To accept responsibility for this ticket, to say it's mine, it's no longer in the unassigned area. I'm going to do that under the Edit Details button up at the top here and choose to change that assignment. And I can change it to myself. I can change it to someone else within the company, and that's where I might want to send them a notification. If I choose this option, then whenever email addresses associated to that individual get sent an email that says, a new work order has just been assigned to you. It also sends them the detail of what the work order is about. So they would be able to see that it was a server crashed and there's a blue screen and that they're down. Okay, all of that through checking this send assignment notification email option. But if I'm taking the ticket, it's my responsibility. I don't need to notify anybody. I'm simply going to update that change there, and then I'll save that. So now that ticket is assigned to me, and I would begin working on it. Okay. Activities that you can do within this ticket are to be able to log a phone call to the customer or send an email to the customer. Please keep in mind, though, that both of these two activities here do not cause any invoice functionality over to QuickBooks. So these are both free options. You know, I just want to call the customer and confirm that it's down or schedule a time or something like that, that I'm not going to actually charge the customer for that time. So I would record a phone call and say, confirmed that server is down. Need to schedule for Friday morning. Okay. Since my timer was going, if I was timing my conversation, I'd stop that when I hung up the phone with them and save that entry. So that particular communication entry will prompt me again for a follow-up. I'll say I don't need to set one. Maybe I need to ask somebody else to schedule that appointment, whatever. Goes into the communication history of the work order as a note on here, but does not cause anything to be invoiced. if I'm working on this issue and I'm in the kind of support department where my time on the phone with this customer is billable, okay, or me going out on site to see this customer is something that is going to be billable, then I would need to use the record technician time option here. So here is where I would update this and say, okay, I was on the phone with the customer from 2 o'clock until 2:30. It was me who did the work. I can also say it was someone else who did the phone call. The billable time is going to calculate for me automatically based upon my start and end dates. I pick where that service occurred. Was it over the phone? Was it remote support? Was it on-site? Those kinds of things might be options that you would put in the place of service area here. And then I pick the rate that I'm going to invoice them at. Now, these are all of my service items as they came over from QuickBooks, and I can see that, okay, services performed are $125 per hour. That's how much it's going to bill this at. Okay, so I pick services performed here, and I put in my notes. Troubleshoot, blue screen, hard drive has failed, we'll need on-site visit. Okay, so I have determined that over the phone during that half-an-hour conversation with them. I'm going to go ahead and save those changes there. Me putting in my notes, putting in my start time, putting in my end time, automatically generated an entry here in the invoice area. So here, I'm going to see there is that service that Barb did for half an hour. It was listed under the services performed rate, which is $125 per hour. So currently, I will invoice that customer for $62.50 when this ticket gets closed. So all of this work that I'm doing so far gets saved right to here until the point when I, and we'll do this today, close the work order. That is what is going to cause the whole invoice to post over to QuickBooks. So as you're recording these items over here, that does not immediately send over to QuickBooks. It queues it up in this work order to be posted all together when the work order gets closed. So I've done my work there. I've done my troubleshooting over the phone. Somebody else is going to need to go out on site and go do the actual repair. So in that case, I'd close out this ticket again. Boom, I'm done. If I refresh my support screen, now I see that's no longer an unassigned work order. And I can see under the, I don't have a workspace for my things or my assigned work orders, that kind of stuff. Otherwise, I'd be able to see that there. So let me actually reconfigure this workspace to a 3-panel layout so that I can see open work orders that have been assigned. Okay, we'll go to work order processing component, and we'll choose assigned work orders. We'll finish that. Okay. So now I see that that particular ticket is in my assigned area. Now I need to go ahead and schedule that particular call, because let me go change my visible columns here so that I can see again who the customer is, what's going on with that ticket. Now, my server crash would need to be scheduled as an appointment on-site visit. What I can do there then is be able to actually go in and schedule that. So I would do that under my calendar area within Driven. So I'm going to go back to my calendar here, go look at the calendar for Monday, let's say. That's Friday. Let's open this drop down here. Oh, that's right. I said I was going to do it on Friday AM. So we'll do the 22nd. And we see that currently there is nothing on the calendar for me. I also have the capability to look at other people's calendars as well. And I can refresh that. If anything was scheduled for any of the individuals, it would show up here on the day view calendar. So I can see, okay, we're open all day Friday, I can go ahead and schedule this out as early as 9 a.m. So I could tell the customer, okay, we can be there at 9 a.m. So I would double-click right here on the 9 a.m. area and say that I need to repair server hard drive, or whatever the subject of that particular appointment is. It's going to be from 9 a.m. until probably 11. Let's say it's a 2-hour-long repair. We'll schedule it for that. I would link it to a contact within the Driven database because I want to associate it to Mickey. So I'm, again, going to search and find Mickey Mouse here. There he is. There's Mickey from Disney World. Now, Driven knows that there are some tickets open for Mickey Mouse. So it's going to associate this appointment to all of those open tickets automatically. Okay. However, if he's not going to be able to resolve everything, he's only going to go work on the server crash. I'm going to uncheck all of the other options there. So I only want him working on this one particular work order. All right. Then I get to decide if anyone else in my company needs to be working on this or come along on this. So instead of me, if I need to put it on Jen's calendar, I can do that. Okay. But let's say I'm done with that. I don't need to do anything else in here. My save button's missing. My workspace is a little too small here. I can't see my whole save button down at the bottom there. So we'll save that appointment. And that now gets to be a confirmed appointment on the calendar to repair the server hard drive. Everyone sees that it's with the Disney World Mickey Mouse, and they can see that it's associated to work order number 100,017. Now, if you also go back into the work order itself, so there is my server crashed work order. When you open that work order, the top of your screen, if an appointment has been scheduled, is going to show to you that there's an appointment scheduled for Friday the 22nd with Jen Sherwood. So everyone has the capability to update the customer on what's going on. Okay. Also within this work order, let's say that Jen actually does go out and begin, well, before Jen goes out, hold on. Before she even goes out there, it's to repair a hard drive. Maybe she needs to have a hard drive available to her, and I don't have any in stock. So I need for someone to purchase a hard drive or get one for her to be able to do this repair. I can assign that in the work order screen here as what is called a task. So I would be able to say under my task assignments that I need to create a new task. Okay, I have none created right here. Here's where I see them all. But up at the top of the action menu, which is another area that you can get to activities, I can assign an internal task or to-do. And I would be able to ask the system administrator to please order a hard drive. Okay, and I need to order a 80 gig hard drive for install on Friday a.m. Okay, so it's starting today. Obviously, I need to have her finish this by tomorrow. See? And I would save that. Now, the advantage of using a task here is that is associated to this work order. Everybody's going to be able to see it. And that sends an email to the system administrator letting them know that a new task has been assigned to them. So they'd know, hey, I'm supposed to order a hard drive for this particular work order that's going out to Disney World tomorrow. The system administrator could come in, open up that particular task, and say that she bought it from Tech Data. Will arrive by 5 p.m. Thursday. She marks it completed, so she goes in here and says, okay, I finished it today, and she saves that. Now, an email goes off to the person who assigned her the task, who was me. So I get an email saying that the system administrator just marked this task completed. And I would be able to go in here and look and see what the details of the notes that she put in there was. So tasks within Driven are very useful and powerful for being able to keep track of internal or potentially project-related details that need to be associated to this work order. Maybe I need for somebody else to build the computer or do something else internally here. You would do those commonly through task assignments. Now, up here, still in the activity menu, I have the ability to, like I said, see any communications that have gone on. So there's a service that was entered, there's the phone call that was done, everything that's gone on with this ticket so far. I also see any follow-ups that have been scheduled or associated to this particular work order. We talked briefly about the invoice tab. This is where I'm going to be able to see any billable entries that I've made. Also, this is where you're going to print a copy of the work order or a copy of the invoice to give to the customer or to give to your tech so that they have the address of where to go to. So if I choose that I want to print this template, I click the printer icon right next to the work order template name. That's going to open in a PDF kind of format a copy of this particular work order. And I can see, okay, it's a service order invoice. There's the invoice number. That's the ticket number. Here's when it was received. Here is the description of everything that's been entered on here so far. And right now, your total, Mr. Customer, that I'm going to leave this invoice with you is $62.50. Okay. So you can present an invoice to a customer if you update it real time from their site, print it out directly from their location and send it to them. So that's the invoice menu there. The linked products is where my technician will be able to come in here and see, okay, this particular ticket is associated to this interface kit. There's the details of the interface kit. I have when it was made active, when it shipped out there, the fact that it's linked to this particular ticket here. I can see all the information about that piece of equipment. If I double click on that particular piece of equipment, I can edit anything in here. So I could put a new note on here that, you know, we had to replace hard drive on 7/22. Okay, so there's a note about that particular piece of equipment that everyone else would be able to see and access very easily then. And there it is. So that's everything that's been associated to this ticket. The knowledge base area gives you the capability to search the knowledge base that's been created for potential solutions of how to solve this problem. And the next menu is called Event History. This tracks for you everyone who has worked on and dealt with this particular ticket. So I'm able to see that Barb has done 2 activities with this particular ticket here. And if I had uploaded or attached any document files, they would be visible here and I could open them and look at them. Maybe when, let's go actually upload a document here, because Barb did send me a copy of the error message. So I'm going to put it into a category. The only one I can choose right now is pricing documents, and this is going to be error message. If I want, I can password protect it because it could be her financial documents or whatever is associated to this particular work order. I can upload anything that I want to. And then I would select and go find that file here. So I click right here where it says select. I go find a copy of that error message doc, and I process that. And I can put as many document attachments, you know, they sent me 10 pictures, whatever, I can attach them all right here. But let me process that upload for you here. Let you see where that goes and what it looks like. So now under my document attachments, that particular Word document in this case is actually embedded into the Driven database. And if I choose to download it now, I can open it using Word because that's the kind of attachment it was. My Word document opens over here, and I see what the error message said. So So, oh, I can see it's a permissions error or whatever. I have the capability to do that. It's a fully functional Word document as well. It opened up in Word, and it was stored on the server. Okay. Clear out my downloads list, get that gone. Now, the other two things that we haven't talked about are recording. We did record some technician time. I'm going to record some more in just a moment, but also this record parts and supplies options. This is where that actual hard drive will get invoiced to the customer. So I want to add that here. So I'm going to go record parts and supplies, and I'm going to say that I used, I don't think I have a hard drive in my, yeah, I didn't think so. But I do have a keyboard in my item list here. So this will pull up your entire item list out of QuickBooks that came over into Driven, or any new parts that you had created within Driven. So here I can see that in my California warehouse right now, I have almost 2,000 keyboards. In my default warehouse, I have 2,400 keyboards. So I'm going to use it out of there. I'm going to use one keyboard. The default retail price of a keyboard is $5, and I can see what the last cost of that keyboard was. Well, maybe it's changed, you know, now maybe it's $3.25. I can put that in if I would like as a tech, if I have that info. And then I would say, you know, wireless keyboard, whatever notes I want to put about the keyboard here. Okay. And I would save that change. So now, go back to my invoice selection. I see that there's an inventory item for that Barb Fiddler added for one keyboard for $5. Okay. And that is a taxable item, so it's going to charge sales tax. So right now, my balance due from the customer is $67.88. All right. The time that Jen spends out there on site would have to get recorded here if it's going to be billable as well. So I would want to record technician time here. Okay. I go in. Oh, I did parts. Hold on. Meant to do tech time. Service entry. So this service occurred on the 22nd. It started at 9 a.m. It finished up on the 22nd at 11:30. Okay. Jen is the one who performed those services. My billable time is going to be 2.5 hours, where it occurred, and at what rate. So this time I'm going to choose the on-site labor rate for $200 an hour. And they would put in their notes here. Now, also, they do that automatically. They save their changes, and that enters my billable entry in my invoice tab. So let's say that everything is finished now. All the work has been performed. Everything's repaired. I'm ready to go ahead and close out this ticket. All right, so in the bottom left-hand corner in the activity area, I'm going to close the work order. And when I do that, I'm asked for a customer closeout number. If they have to give me an approval number for closing the ticket, I can have that. The reference number, if I had entered one, would show up here. And I can also enter that customer's PO number if they give me one. Okay. I see right here on screen that currently that is going to invoice the customer for $605.38. And I have the opportunity to note how this issue was resolved. So this is going to give me my solution to the problem. You can always report on how things were resolved. And we'll talk in a minute about creating that knowledge base automatically. Let's say I don't want to do that for this one right now. We'll finalize that closeout. Again, do I need to set a follow-up? Do I need to call them back in a week and make sure that it's still working? I'm going to choose no on that one. And now my ticket is closed. Okay. Now closing the ticket within Driven, since I am an IPP type customer, puts that into my pending activities to post over to QuickBooks. So if I go to my Intuit QuickBooks Data Sync menu, in my Sync from Driven to QuickBooks, I'm going to be able to see, should be able to see, that there's a work order to send. Apparently my ticket didn't go into there. Hold on a second here. Wishing no power, it's in there. Maybe I just didn't refresh my screen. Nope. Okay. It will show up in here, guys, as a work order to be sent over to QuickBooks, and that will post the invoice then. Okay. Debbie's asking about the task and why I don't see it anymore. I would see it, Debbie, if I look at the details of that ticket, because yes, it does say associated to that ticket, but once it gets closed, it's not going to show up on my daily activities open tasks area because it's been marked as completed. So it doesn't show up as a task assignment anymore because it got marked complete. But if I go back into Mickey's account and I go look at that particular work order, so I'm going to go to his service and support area, into his server crashed, and I go to the task assignments menu, and there it is right there. Okay. So that's the information. By the way, that's me pulling up a closed work order. I can see here that it was closed on 3/08 today. Okay. And I do have options for you here because you notice over on the left-hand side of the screen that I cannot record any more parts and supplies or put technician time on here because this ticket has closed and it is posted, should have posted, over to QuickBooks. It's done. It's finished. Okay, so my two choices would be to either reopen this particular work order here or to open a new ticket. Okay. So let's say that Mickey calls back again. You know, the server's still down. Yes, it was fixed at that time, which there it's here in history. I see the old ticket, but something else has happened to it or it didn't fix it. Okay. So again, my choices would be to double-click on this particular work order that's here and reopen it. That then would allow me to add additional activities to that. So I can record more time on that. I can add more parts to that, do whatever else I need to with that. Okay, so we're going to go back out there. We're going to record more technician time. We're going to say we're there for another hour. And we plugged in the cable. Okay, we save that. And then we could reclose that ticket. So I'd go back in there, go back to my close work order option. It's going to show me now, okay, now you're going to invoice for a total of $822.38. PO number was still in there, but my resolution should have changed because I'm closing this again at a different time. So it's not going to show me what the previous resolution was. I have to input a new one. Replace hard drive and plug in cable. Okay. And I'll finalize that closeout. No follow-up required, and I will, ticket is closed again now. Okay. Debbie's asking if the admin has control over tasks to change due date. No, Debbie, the only people who can change due dates or change anything about tasks are the person who created it and the person that it is assigned to. So now let's spend a few moments talking about our knowledge base articles and how those are associated to work orders or how those are available to you for troubleshooting types of documents. Because our knowledge base is used for typically, as I mentioned, support, services, troubleshooting type of information. We do have customers as well, though, who use them for internal policy and procedure documents also to be able to maybe post, here are our customer service policies and how we handle those, or here's the vacation policy, a central kind of storage location for all of your policy documents. So under the lookup menu, there is the ability to look up and search the knowledge base. And when you do this, it's going to show to me right now any knowledge base articles that I have already created. So right now there's one called Black Screen Troubleshooting. Here's what you do. Can be fixed in the following ways. Plug it in and replace the cord. Or there's also a spec sheet for a P64. And this particular document says this consists of the following pieces. Now, just searching that knowledge base and clicking on that search screen shows me every knowledge base article that's in Driven at the moment. I have the capability to edit the article, to update it and change it, or to email it directly to someone. Customer called and said they want a copy of the spec sheet. Okay, sure, here, Mr. Customer, let me email it to you. I click the email button right here, and I say, okay, I'm going to go send that to Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse at Disney, selection complete. There it is. So once the article gets created, very easy way to look at it, send it off to clients, and do things like that. The other thing that you can do here is to go ahead and create a new article in the upper left-hand corner. Okay, so when I choose to create an article, I'm going to put the article into a document category. So we'll put it into a troubleshooting hardware kind of a category. I can also put it into 2 other subcategories as well if I'd like to. I put a title on the article. So this is called Blue Screen Issues. And this is how to resolve most blue screen issues. I have the opportunity, since you can keep that knowledge base as long as you're running Driven, to make that article no longer active. If it's an old article I don't want to use anymore, I'd want to keep it in there, but I'd want to mark it inactive so it doesn't show up in my searches anymore. I have the ability to mark it as internal use only. If this is set to yes, then this particular document would not be available on the customer care pages that Driven has, which is where your customers could log in and search the knowledge base. They only get to search articles that are marked as no on the internal only. So because, like I said, it could be your vacation policy or customer service policies. You don't want customers being able to search that and see that. So you have the ability of blocking certain types of articles from that customer care portal. And whether or not this article is set to draft. Draft articles do not show up in search results because they have typically not been reviewed or approved yet. Now, when you create the article initially, it is always going to save it in a draft status because you might have your internal people creating those articles. I've got a tech who's writing knowledge base articles. I want someone in management to review that and approve it and test it out, make sure it's proper before it's a published article. So they will always saved in a draft status the first time. So I would say reboot system is the first step, unplug everything, reformat. Okay. So a lot of options for you here when you're writing your knowledge base articles. You have full HTML capability, so you can put hyperlinks to other, research this at www.ibm.com or something. You can put a hyperlink in there. You can make them bold and italic and bigger font, and put numbers in front of them, do all that fun kind of stuff for you automatically. So all that functionality and capability is there for you in the knowledge base article. Also, if you already have them in a Word document or something else, you can copy and paste them into here. And I would save this article. So now my article has been saved. And I'm going to close out that screen. But when everyone else is looking, so when I go to search all my articles here, I see 3 articles. I see that this troubleshooting hardware one, how to resolve blue screens, is set as draft. So I would need to, as a management type person, come in here. Oh, I double clicked on the article, which showed it to me in its HTML view, full page view. So what I want to do was click once and choose to edit the article. And I would proof it as a manager. Maybe I need to say reformat drive on site only, whatever, whatever notes I want to add. And I can say it's no longer a draft article. And then I would save that. So now this is a finished, published, available article that anyone can search for and see. So knowledge bases are very useful for you guys when troubleshooting or updating issues in there. How to resolve things, easy way to send them to your clients. All right. Now, the only other thing that I wanted to look at potentially is let's go back and look at Mickey Mouse's account here. And I want to look at his registered product that he has, because I'm going to be able to see that currently the products that he has under his account with his serial numbers, off on the right-hand side of that, I can see any open, unresolved work orders that are associated to these particular pieces of equipment. So I can see that, you know what, that 3-button mouse still has a work order open that's associated to it. So again, from a management perspective, you guys can come in and see that that particular piece of equipment has something going on with it. Okay. Debbie's asking a question here. Can you add an attachment to your knowledge base article? No, it would have to be embedded into the body of the article itself. There are no attachments that are linked to the knowledge base article. Ralph is asking if it's possible to say PDFs in the knowledge base. No, Ralph, again, that PDF would have to be pasted into the body of the knowledge base article itself. Okay. Well, everyone, that gives you a good starting point and basic understanding of our work order support tickets within Driven. Any other questions that you can think of at the moment that I didn't cover or address? We didn't talk about decrementing time from contracts and things like that. That's something that we cover typically during one of our advanced service webinars on how to set those kinds of contracts up and make them invoice properly. Any other questions so far? Okay. I'll leave the webinar open for another moment or two in case somebody comes up with a question, but that really concludes all. Oh, okay. Debbie does have a question. Can you confirm the task due date can be edited by the assigned task? The due date can be modified by the assigned individual. So here, let's go put a, we'd have to log in as somebody else. I only have one login to this Driven at the moment, so I can't show that to you. Okay. I can find out and confirm that. Okay, everybody. Well, thanks for attending the service webinar today. We do offer this one again on a regular basis. You can check our training schedule on the website anytime and attend that. Have a great afternoon. Thanks.